All right, number 1 says, a board of trustees of a college is considering opening a satellite college. Researchers estimate that there will be 3 times as many full-time students as part-time students, and that the full-time students will take an average of 14 units, and part-time students will take an average of 3 units each semester. The charge for tuition will be $13 per unit. How many of each type of student would need to attend the college for the total revenue to be $877,500 each semester? Okay, so what makes these word problems hard? There's lots of stuff there, isn't there? And you've got to come up with an equation based on all that stuff. All right, so let's start with, a good place to start is, what do we need to find? What are we trying to find? Nope, we know the total revenue is $877,500. How many of each type of student? So usually what you're trying to find, that usually shows up in the very last sentence. So we're trying to find how many full-time students and how many part-time students. So we need to find 2 different things, right? So what are we going to call them? P equals number of part-time. F equals number of full-time. All right, I agree. I would call them P and F also. Makes it easy to remember which is what.
Cent sign used, maybe?
Number. It's a pound sign. Number.
Hashtag.
Not hashtag. It's pound. That's called pound, not hashtag. All right. So we need 2 things. If we need to find 2 things, how many equations do we need? 2. If we needed to find 3 things, how many equations would we need? 3. If we needed to find 8 things, we would need 8 equations. That won't happen in this class. Does happen in other classes though. All right, so we have 2 variables. We need 2 equations. Let's read it again. A board of trustees of a college is considering opening a satellite college. Any equations there? No. Research estimates that there will be 3 times as many full-time students as part-time students. I think that's an equation. 3F plus P. No. Okay, F and P are students, right? Can students equal money? Well, in a sense you do equal money, but yeah, I know it's recorded.
Wait, can you hear us?
Somewhat.
Oh, God.
Cool. Hi.
All right, so we need an equation.
So like 3 times 13 times 13.
Nope, you're all making it way too hard. Forget about all the other numbers for a minute. There will be 3 times as many full-time students as part-time students.
So there's 3 F. No.
So are there more full-time students or are there more part-time students?
More full-time.
There's more full-time students. So the full-time students, how many more full-time students are there than part-time students? 3 times as many. So there's one equation. There are 3 times as many full-time as part-time. A lot of people are tempted to write 3F equals P because that's kind of the way the words come in English. So you got to be careful. You got to think for a minute. Are there more full-time or are there more part-time? In this case, there are more full-time if you read the sentence. So you need to take the part-timers and multiply it by 3. So there's one equation. Now comes the second equation. I'm going to start with a full-time student. Here's a full-time student, F. How many credits does a full-time student take? 14. So if I put 14F like that, what would that represent? 14 credit hours for every student, and I'm multiplying by the number of students. So this would be credit hours?
Yeah.
This would be credit hours for the full-time students, right? And then I would multiply that by 13. Excellent. Why would I multiply that by 13? That's how much dollars it is. So this all together, 14 times F tells me how many credit units we have. Multiplied by 13, this gives me money. So this right here, this is the amount of money the college makes off of the full-time students. We're going to set it equal to something, but I think before we set it equal to something, we also need to figure out the money for the part-time students.
So it would be 13 times 3 times B. Yeah.
That's right, because a part-time student takes 3 credit hours, and that part-time student also pays $13 per credit hour.
You said
So I think I want to add those together, don't I? Because this is the money from the full-time students. I add the money from the part-time students, and what do I get?
I don't know how to say that.
$877,500. The total amount of money. So there's your second equation.
So wait, that's how much the college makes off us?
No.
No, the college makes a whole heck of a lot more than that.
Oh.
All right, so the whole key to this problem is, where can I find this college that only charges $13 per credit union, per credit hour? How much do you guys pay per credit hour?
260, 160.
I don't know, it's like $4.95 for like 3 credits. Something like that.
That's about right. I think it's 160 or something like that per credit hour. So this one's only paying 13 per credit hour. That's a heck of a deal.
Wait, that's us, 107.
I think you guys pay about $160 per credit hour.
I feel dumb.
So this problem isn't really very
Where's the
realistic.
meal plan
Is the
coming
point.
in? That's like 1800 right there.
And then you throw your meal plan in there. All right. So anyway,
You better be there.
I'm going to simplify these two equations a little bit. I'm going to take 13 times 14. My calculator says that's 182F plus 39P equals 877,500. Okay, so there's equation number 1, and there is equation number 2. There's my 2 equations. With any word problem, that's always the hardest part. The hardest part is always, how do you read through all the information they gave you and come up with those 2 equations? Now we have to solve it. Do we wish to solve by graphing, substitution, or elimination? And I'll give you a hint, graphing is never the right answer.
I said no.
What's wrong with graphing?
You can grab that.
I could graph. I could use Y and X instead of F and P. But I really don't want to graph. Graphing's not a very good way. Somebody said use substitution. I agree. I think substitution's a great idea. How come?
You can plug that. You already know that. So
F is already alone up here, isn't it? So since F is alone, I can take that, plug it in to the other one. So this one is set up immediately for using substitution. I think substitution is by far the best way to do this one. All right, that's going to give us 182 times 3p plus 39p equals 877,500. 182 times 3, my calculator tells me that's 546p plus 39p equals 877,500. Combine my like terms, 546p and 39p is 585p, is 877,500. Divide, p is 1,500. So this college needs to find 1,500 part-time students.
So if you plug that number in,
So I would take that number and I would plug it in up there
you just multiply it.
and multiply by 3. So F is 4,500. So we need 1,500 part-time students and 4,500 full-time students.
Like these arrows.
Like the arrows?
Yeah, they really help.
I like the colors too. Red and blue. It's a good time.
America.
Other questions? Absolutely, you could plug it into the other equation. I could take 1,500 and I could plug it in right there. It would just be quite a bit harder to figure out the F number, wouldn't it? But it would work, absolutely. Wouldn't be a bad idea to plug it in and check and make sure you get the same answer. And that way, if you do, then you know you did it right. Other questions? All right, on to number 2 then. A chemist wants to mix 10% alcohol solution with a 20% alcohol solution to make a 12% alcohol solution. How many cups of each solution must be mixed to make 5 cups of the 12 solution?
It's gotta be
I didn't know this was chemistry.
Yeah, we do a little chemistry in here. We do a little everything.
Look at us.
Renaissance people. All right, so what are we trying to find?
How many cups?
12%.
How many cups of each solution, and how many solutions are there? 2. So how many variables do we need? 2. So what do we want to call them?
2.
You can't use 2 for a variable.
Sorry, you're small with 2.
What letters do we want to use for our variables this time? S and A. Those are strange choices, but okay.
I like C, because cups.
No, she
How many
likes C
cups?
because Caleb.
The problem with using C for cups is we want cups of 10% and cups of 20%. So I don't want to use C because it's cups twice. I'm going to use X and Y. X equals number of cups at 10%, and Y equals number of cups at 12%.
Ooh, look at us.
Yeah.
It's 20%. Wow.
Oh, the second one is 20%. That's right. Thank you. When we get all done, we want to have 12%.
I'm sure that just confused people.
They're hearing everything you're hearing. And they're seeing everything you're seeing. All right, what I like to do for these problems is I like to draw myself a little picture. So I'm starting with a 10% solution. And I'm dumping into that a 20% solution. And when I get all done, I got to have a 12% solution. How much stuff am I starting with in my beaker that has 10% solution in it? We don't know. But we gave it a name, didn't we? What did we call it? X. I don't know how much is in there. We called it X. How much of my 20% solution do I have? We don't know that either. We called it Y. When I get all done, when I mix them together, how much stuff do I want to have?
Actually, why?
5.
Okay.
I want to have 5 cups when I get all done.
Probably using all.
All right, so I'm looking for 2 things. That tells me I better find 2 equations. Anybody got an equation for me?
That one right there.
You could get wild.
How can I get Y alone? I need an equation first.
Y equals X. I think the X.
Correct. All right, so I would write the equation this way first, though. X plus Y equals 5. There's my first equation. Why is that an equation?
Because of this.
Well, because X is the number of cups, right? So let's say I start with 3 cups here. Then I'd have to have 2 cups there, because altogether I got to have 5 cups. So the number of cups here plus the number of cups there has to be 5 cups. So there's one equation. How about another equation? All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take 0.10 and multiply it by X. What does that mean? X is what again? The number of cups. And we know that there's a bunch of liquid in this cup, and it's 10% acid. So if I take 0.10 and multiply it by X, what does that tell me? It tells me how much alcohol is in that cup. And what's the rest of what's in that cup? What's the other 90% of the stuff? No?
Water.
It's water. That's right. So this cup has 10% alcohol, 90% water. So what this is this tells me how much alcohol is in the cup. Plus, what's that tell me?
20% alcohol, 80% water.
That tells me how much acid or how much alcohol is in this cup. 20% of the material is alcohol, the rest is water. And then when I get all done, what has to happen? I got to have 0.12 times 5. That tells me how much acid I have altogether. I keep saying acid. Alcohol. It's alcohol. Okay, so there's my 2 equations. Do I want to solve by substitution, or do I want to solve by elimination, or do I want to solve by graphing?
Elimination.
Elimination's a pain in the butt? Okay, I personally think elimination or substitution would work very well. Substitution is easy because I can take this equation and I can get y all by itself. Y is 5 minus x. and then I can substitute. So I think substitution is easy. But I think elimination would have worked pretty well too. How would you do elimination? Multiply the top equation by negative 0.10, and then the x's would cancel out. Or you could multiply it by negative 0.20, and the y's would cancel out.
I gotta see that.
You want to see that? Well, we'll do substitution first, and then we'll go back and do elimination, since I already started. You don't have to today? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in. I got to go up here because I'm running out of room. 0.10x plus 0.20 times 5 minus x equals 0.12 times 5. That happens to be 0.6. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify that while I'm here too. Now we solve. We've solved lots of problems like this. 0.10x plus 0.20 times 5, 1, minus 0.20x equals 0.6. Combine my like terms. 0.10x minus 0.20x. Negative 0.10x plus 1 equals 0.6. Subtract 1. 0.6 minus 1, negative 0.4. Keep dropping your minus signs. And then finally, I divide both sides by negative 0.10. X is 4. If x is 4, y is 1. Y would have to be 1.
Crazy.
Questions on that one? Divided by 0.1, negative 0.1.
Oh, it's not 0.10?
0.10, 0.1 and 0.10 are the same thing. I got x equals 4. What if I had done this whole problem, I did all my work, and I got all the way down, and I got x equals 7?
That can't work.
That can't work. Why not?
Because you only have 5 cups.
Because I only had 5 cups. If I only have 5 cups, can I start with 7?
No.
No, so what would that tell me? I made a mistake somewhere. I got to go back and fix it. Or what if I did all this work and I got x equals negative 2? Could x be negative 2?
No.
No, you can't have negative 2 cups of something. Okay? So the only reasonable answers are answers between 0 and 5. So 4 and 1, they're believable answers. All right, number 3. Number 3 says, a 12,000-seat amphitheater will sell tickets for $45 and $70 for a Bob Dylan concert. Let X and Y be the number of tickets that will sell for $45 and $70 respectively. Assume the show will be a sellout. Let R of X be the total revenue in dollars from selling the $45 and $70 tickets. Determine an equation for R of X. All right, well, so this time they already told us what the variables are going to be. X is number of tickets at $45, and Y is number of tickets at $70. So we're looking for 2 things. How many equations do we need? 2. All right, but it says very specifically, determine an equation for the revenue. What does revenue mean?
So what?
Maybe. What do you mean by money made?
Yeah.
So revenue is the amount of money you take in. But it's not the same as profit, is it? What's profit?
Subtract the money spent by money.
You take the amount of money you made and you subtract the amount of money you had to spend. So they're not asking about profit here. They're only asking about revenue. All right, so let's write a formula for revenue. What's revenue?
It would be like 45x plus 70x.
It would be 45x plus 70, not x, 70y. Very good. Why 45x?
45 tickets and sold.
X is the number of tickets I sold at $45. So I multiply by 45. That tells me how much money I made on my $45 tickets. 70y tells me how much money I made on my $70 tickets. Okay, that's almost correct. The problem is they wrote this symbol. R of X. So that means we should have a rule over here that only has the letter X in it. We're not allowed to have the letter Y. So we need to get rid of the letter Y. How do I get rid of the letter Y? I need to make it an X. Well, I can't. They're not just interchangeable, though, are they? I can't just say, oh, just write 70X there. That would be easy, but that's not right. How many variables do we have? 2. How many equations do we have? So far, we've only written 1. We need another equation. Somebody give me another equation.
I literally done it.
Does 12,000 gotta go in?
12,000 has something to do with it. That's correct. X plus Y equals 12,000. Why does X plus Y equal 12,000? That's how many tickets you sold, isn't it? This is tickets sold at 45 plus tickets sold at 70 has to be the total number of tickets. And we were told this concert sold out, so we sold all the tickets. How does that help? How does that help me get rid of the Y up here?
That'll be
Y is 12,000 minus X. I can get the Y all by itself. And I can do substitution. So we're going to take that and we're going to plug it in right up there. So our formula for R is 45X plus 70 times 12,000 minus X. So there's our formula for revenue that only has the letter X in it.
So you don't even use the top one. 70.
Well, I started with the top one. I needed it to get to there. But now we're not going to use that one anymore. I think I'll distribute the 70 through and clean stuff up. So that's going to be 45X plus 70 times 12,000. Let's see, 7 times 12 is 84, and then I need 4 zeros. So that's 84 followed by 4 zeros minus 70X. So I think my formula is negative 25X plus 840,000.
Negative 25 or 45?
45 minus 70
Oh.
gave me negative 25. I combined my like terms there. Okay, evaluate R at 0. R at 2,000. I'm going to skip a few of these here. I'm going to go right to the last one here. R at 12,000. 45 minus 70. Combine my like terms. This symbol means plug 0 in for X. That's right. If I plug 0 in for X, I get 840,000. The second one means plug 2,000 in for X. So minus 25 times 2,000 plus 840,000. I use my calculator. Negative 25 times 2,000 plus 840,000. Calculator says 790,000. And then the third one, I do exactly the same thing, except now I plug in 12,000, right? So I'm going to take negative 25 multiplied by 12,000, add 840,000. I get 540,000. Now, the question is, what do they mean?
Number of tickets sold at $45.
Okay, so this 0 means we did what?
Sold no.
We sold no tickets at $45, which means we sold them all at $70. If we sell all of our tickets at $70,
Make that much money.
our revenue will be 840,000. So if I'm the ticket salesperson, that's the best I could do, right? The best I could do is sell all the tickets for 70, and I could have a revenue of 840,000. What does this one mean? This one means I sold 2,000 tickets at 45, which means I sold the rest of them, which would be 10,000 tickets at $70, and my revenue would be that. I think if I'm the ticket salesman, I think this is the worst I could do. This is the worst case scenario. This says I sold all all 12,000 tickets for 45 bucks. If I sell all the tickets for 45 bucks, my revenue will be $540,000. Not quite sure what happened the other day, but my camera stopped recording, so I'll finish off the lecture here. All right, so we were done with this problem. We're next with C, determine the domain and range. Well, X is the number of tickets. That's the domain. So X can be any whole number between 0 and 12,000. And some of my students ask, could I write this? 0 less than or equal to X less than or equal to 12,000. And my answer is, well, that's not really exactly correct, but I would accept it. Because if you write 0 less than or equal to X less than or equal to 12,000, that implies you could have fractions and decimals and things. And you really can't have 8.5 tickets, but that's okay. You showed me what domain means. Range of the revenue function would mean what possible revenue values can we get. And from up above, we can see that the lowest revenue I could have is 540,000, and the highest revenue is 840,000. And again, I really can't get every value in between, but I would accept that answer. And then finally, how many of each ticket must be sold for the revenue to be 602,500? We set 602,500 equal to our revenue. We solve, subtracting 840,000 on both sides. Finally, divide by negative 25, and we would see X needs to be 2,500. I take that answer, 2,500, plug it in back up here. Y has to be 2,500.